A fatal message reached Richard Berman from his ex-wife Jennifer on January 13, 2014. She warned him about the inevitable retribution for his sins, because the more serious the crime, the more terrible the punishment. Richard should have expected to be punished, for deep down he knew he deserved it. The perturbed man dropped everything and rushed to his ex-wife, hoping to prevent a tragedy. But upon arriving at her house, he realized he was too late. The love story of Richard and Jennifer began in 1990 at a party of mutual friends. The 27-year-old young man fell in love at first sight with the attractive 24-year-old blonde. A month later, they started dating. Richard was just starting his career as a realtor, while Jennifer worked as a nurse. Their modest incomes allowed them to rent a humble apartment in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the couple moved in 1991. Soon Richard proposed to his beloved, and she gladly accepted. In 1992, the lovers had a lavish wedding in Miami, believing that a long, happy married life awaited them. But reality proved to be harsher. The first years of the Bermans' married life were filled with joy and harmony. However, over time, their relationship was overshadowed by the husband's jealousy. Once, while visiting Jennifer at work, he witnessed her warm and caring interaction with one of her patients. Richard began to suspect that there was more than just medical care between his wife and the patient. Day by day, Richard's jealousy grew, and eventually he insisted that Jennifer quit her job at the hospital and become a housewife. At that point, his earnings had increased significantly, so his wife leaving her job did not affect the family's financial situation. At first, Jennifer felt awkward being completely dependent on her husband. But gradually she got used to her new role as a homemaker and found many interesting activities and hobbies for herself. In 1994, the couple took out a mortgage on a luxurious $1 million mansion in the prestigious historic district of Lisset, West Palm Beach. Jennifer enthusiastically set about arranging their new family nest. From the beginning of their marriage, the Bermans dreamed of having children, but for a long time their attempts were unsuccessful. Only in 1997, after long and expensive treatment, did Jennifer become pregnant. The long-awaited son Alex was born first in the family, followed by daughter Jacqueline a year later. The young mother adored her children and devoted herself entirely to raising them. Jennifer, an ardent fan of classical music, was pleased to note that her growing son and daughter shared her passion. At the ages of 6 to 7, Alex and Jacqueline began studying at the prestigious Alexander Dreyfus Public School of Arts in West Palm Beach. The Berman children showed remarkable musical talents. Alex masterfully played the cello, while straight-A student Jacqueline played the violin. At the same time, they excelled in their studies. Other parents held up Alex and Jacqueline as an example to their own children. Jennifer gave her all to raising her son and daughter. She drove them to school, picked them up after classes, and accompanied them to rehearsals and concerts. Alex and Jacqueline often performed as part of the school ensemble. Meanwhile, the head of the family, Richard Berman, fully devoted himself to work, providing a carefree life for his wife and children. And he succeeded at it. Step by step, he climbed the career ladder, and in 2005 he became the head of the real estate company where he had started as an intern 15 years earlier. But in 2007, the mortgage crisis hit America, leading to problems not only in the real estate market. The country was gripped by mass layoffs, falling stock prices, bank failures and other troubles. Richard's company survived, but his income dropped sharply. He could no longer single-handedly provide for his family at their accustomed level. And although the man had once promised his wife that she would never have to work again, due to financial difficulties he was forced to ask Jennifer to find a job, otherwise they risked losing their luxurious home. At that point, the woman had not worked anywhere for over 13 years. Having become so accustomed to the role of housewife, she immediately refused her husband's suggestion to return to the hospital. This caused tension in the couple's relationship. A year later, in 2008, Richard filed for divorce. This unexpected turn forced Jennifer to realize that after the divorce she would not be able to maintain her usual standard of living. So the woman agreed to get a job and started working as a nurse. Seeing this, Richard changed his mind about divorcing and withdrew his application. The couple continued to live together, but their relationship was no longer as happy as before. One of Jennifer's friends confessed, trust simply disappeared between them. Outwardly they seemed to be the same model family, but this was not the case. Jenny felt that her husband had betrayed her. She thought that Richard had deceived her, first by forcing her to quit, and then by making her go back to work. She stopped trusting him. As time passed, the effects of the crisis continued to impact the Bermans' financial situation. In 2010, they were forced to sell their luxurious mansion for $1.2 million to pay off their debts. They had to move to another mortgaged house in a less prestigious area of West Palm Beach. The couple grew further and further apart, effectively becoming roommates under one roof. They stayed together solely for the sake of the children. Richard did not hide his infidelities, while no one knew for sure whether Jennifer had any affairs on the side. Her husband's unfaithfulness was the last straw for the woman. In August 2012, she found out about Richard's young mistress. An outraged Jennifer filed for divorce and demanded that the cheater immediately get out of the house. But Richard was not going to back down and stated that he did not want a divorce. He was quite satisfied with the current relationship and had no intention of moving out of the house for which he continued to pay the mortgage. The man bluntly warned his wife, "You won't get a cent from me. Don't expect me to leave you the house after the divorce and continue to pay the mortgage and alimony." The divorce proceedings dragged on for a long time, as neither Richard nor Jennifer wanted to compromise. They continued to live under the same roof in their shared home together with their son Alex and daughter Jacqueline. As it became known, all this time Richard made considerable efforts to get his wife to leave on her own. He staged debauches, provoked quarrels and swearing. Once, when the children were staying with their grandmother, the man brought prostitutes home and spent the night partying with them, forcing Jennifer, who was sleeping in the next room, to listen to their loud moans. The woman was shocked by her husband's behavior, not expecting such meanness from him. She went to the police with a complaint about emotional abuse by Richard. Jennifer hoped to get a court order restricting his contact with her and the children, but lost the case. Richard hired the best lawyers and defended his right to stay in the house with his wife. The only consolation in this situation was that the couple did not drag their son and daughter into their war. At least until the spring of 2013, when Richard threw another party with questionable guests. That's when Jennifer's patience ran out. She told her husband that she intended to move in with her mother along with the children. The elderly woman, who also lived in West Palm Beach, had extremely poor health. Almost all of her pension went to medicine and doctor visits. Jennifer realized that she could not expect help from her sick mother. Meanwhile, Richard continued to delay the divorce, which relieved him of the obligation to pay alimony. Thus, the entire burden of supporting Alex and Jacqueline fell on Jennifer's shoulders. It is known that in April 2013, the woman pawned a valuable watch that she had inherited from her late father. With the money she received, she bought clothes for the children and filled up her own car with gasoline. Jennifer was falling into despair. She refused the services of her lawyer in the divorce proceedings due to lack of funds. At the same time, she filed a petition with the court asking Richard to be obliged to provide her with financial assistance, but he remained adamant. Jennifer continued to work as a nurse at the hospital, coping quite well with her duties. However, due to financial difficulties, she had to take on additional side jobs. At night she cared for elderly people, working almost every day for 12 hours. At that time, the woman did not yet know what new trial fate had in store for her. In September 2013, Jennifer's mother's condition deteriorated sharply, and a few days later the elderly woman passed away. For Jennifer, who was already in a depressed state, her mother's death was a real shock. The woman sank into a deep depression and almost stopped going to work at the hospital. With her hands down, she watched her debts grow like a snowball. In November 2013, the Bermans officially divorced. Jennifer hoped that she would finally get half of the house and Richard would start paying alimony. She believed that her life would get better, but reality turned out to be completely different. By that time, Richard had begun to thrive in business. A successful realtor, he sold houses worth millions of dollars in South Florida. After the divorce, the man had to pay alimony to his ex-wife, but his official monthly income was only $2,888. So the court obliged him to pay the minimum amount, $600 for each child. In addition to alimony, the father also paid for medical insurance for Alex and Jacqueline and partially covered the costs of servicing Jennifer's car. As for the Bermans' shared home, Richard, using his connections in the real estate industry, delayed the process of selling it in every possible way. Jennifer could have expedited the deal by hiring lawyers, but she simply didn't have the money for it. Soon Richard bought a new posh house for $1.5 million and a luxurious Bentley. True, both purchases were registered to his real estate agency. However, it's worth giving Richard credit, he did not forget about his own children. The father showered Alex and Jacqueline with expensive gifts, took them to restaurants and various events. Perhaps in this way he tried to lure them to his new home. The man took every opportunity to show the teenagers that he could provide them with better living conditions. The confrontation between the ex-spouses was unequal. Jennifer's total monthly income barely reached $2,000. She paid for the children's elite art school, bought groceries, barely making ends meet. The woman had practically no money left for her own needs. Jennifer still lived with her son and daughter in her late mother's house. But soon another unpleasant surprise awaited her. It turned out that the old woman had once taken out a huge loan for treatment, putting the property up as collateral to the bank. She desperately fought for her life, unfortunately hiding this information from her daughter. In December 2013, Jennifer received a letter from the bank notifying her that in February 2014 she had to vacate the house, which the institution was taking in payment of the debt. After these events, sinister thoughts began to surface in Jennifer's mind. At the end of 2013, the woman, along with Alex and Jacqueline, moved out of her late mother's house into their old empty dwelling, where once the entire Berman family had happily lived together. One pre-New Year's Day, Jennifer was talking to a friend, complaining about fatigue and loss of meaning in life. The friend advised her to immediately see a psychiatrist. Jennifer heeded the advice and visited a doctor who recommended a course of psychotherapy. However, she had neither the money nor the time for it, so the treatment was limited to prescribing antidepressants. Unfortunately, these medications could not improve the woman's psycho-emotional state. And the last straw was Alex and Jacqueline's statement that they wanted a better life and wished to move in with their father. Immediately after the onset of the new year 2014, in the first days of January, Jennifer gathered all the available funds, purchased a hunting rifle, a silencer, and ammunition. On the night of January 12th to 13th, the woman waited for her son and daughter to fall sound asleep. Taking the weapon, she first went to Alex's room and then to Jacqueline's. After that, she sent a message to her ex-husband with the words, "You deserve this," and pulled the trigger for the third time. Richard read the message only a few hours later. He tried to call Jennifer, but no one picked up. The man instantly got ready, got into the car and rushed to his ex-wife. At that moment, the clock showed about 8 a.m. On the way, Richard called 911. Despite the dispatcher's repeated warnings to wait for the police, he entered the house and saw a horrific scene. Going up to Alex's bedroom, the man heard the alarm clock ringing, but his son lay motionless in bed. Coming closer, Richard saw blood flowing from the boy's ear. He refused to believe his eyes. In his daughter's bedroom, the father found Jacqueline, who was also lying in bed with a gunshot wound to the head. Her face was horribly mutilated. Jennifer was found in the kitchen. Blood splatters were visible on the walls, a rifle lying nearby. 2 empty wine bottles stood on the glass round table. There Richard also found a note written by his ex-wife, "I sympathize with those who loved us and who are now in pain." It seems that before this, Jennifer had sent an email to her cousin, with whom she was close. The woman wrote to him that she had no more strength to fight life's adversities, so she intended to take her own life, taking her son and daughter with her. The police officers who arrived at the scene confirmed that all 3 were dead. At the time of death, Alex was 16, Jacqueline was 15, and their mother was 48 years old. Studying the court documents regarding the divorce, law enforcement officials learned that Jennifer had repeatedly complained about her husband, who had left her without means of subsistence. The woman said that she was forced to sell personal belongings in order to buy groceries. The deceased's statement also indicated that during the divorce, when the couple was still living under the same roof, Richard bought food and personal items for himself and then hid them in his room so that his wife and children could not use them. Jennifer claimed that her husband hid even toilet paper from them. After separating from Richard, Jennifer's monthly expenses amounted to about $4,500, while her income was half that amount. Thus, the woman's debts grew steadily every month. It is known that during the divorce proceedings, Richard stopped paying the mortgage on their shared home. After the divorce, Jennifer planned to sell the property for $590,000, but the house was mortgaged. According to court documents, Jennifer's total debt to banks exceeded $600,000. Relatives saw this as the very reason for the terrible tragedy that befell the Berman family. The deceased's cousin, who prefers to remain anonymous, said that his sister had had unhealthy thoughts before. In his opinion, Jennifer simply convinced herself that she could not cope with life's difficulties and gave up. She did not intend to take revenge, but thought she was doing the right thing. She just didn't see a future. "This is real madness," the cousin commented on Jennifer's tragedy. According to the Berman's neighbors, both Jennifer and Richard were good parents. They rarely quarreled, but when it came to divorce, conflicts and scandals really broke out between them. One of the neighbors reported that 2 days before the tragedy, he saw and talked to Jennifer. She was sad and upset, and something strange could be discerned in her face. As if it wasn't her, and her eyes seemed empty. Jennifer offered to sell their house to the neighbor at a reduced price. The woman was eager to get money as soon as possible in order to pay off her debts. And at the end of the conversation, she let slip, "I'm ready to go to a new world." The neighbor said goodbye to Jennifer and soon told his wife about this strange conversation, expressing concern. But his wife believed that they should not interfere in other people's family affairs. Richard Berman took the loss of his son and daughter hard. According to some sources, for a while he became dependent on alcohol, but later got a grip on himself. In one interview, Richard admitted, "This is horrible and crazy. Once Jennifer was a good wife, a wonderful mother, but the divorce deprived her of her mind. Wanting to take revenge on me, she struck at the most painful spot. This is the most selfish and monstrous crime one can imagine." In 2015, Richard Berman suddenly came into several $1,000,000. With this money, he founded a fund to support talented students of the Dreyfus School of the Arts, where his children had once studied. This fund is still functioning today. It is known that Richard Berman is now about 60 years old. The man is married, still lives in his luxurious mansion, and runs a real estate company in West Palm Beach. Thank you for watching this story. Write your thoughts about it in the comments. Don't miss the future videos, subscribe and like the channel. Take care of yourself and people you love.